Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are slipping into a wet, thunder-drenched world where something with 6-inch fangs is watching you from beneath a fern. The wind is warm, the air is thick, and somewhere in the distance something enormous is coughing through the fog. You're in saber-toothed cat territory. You probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along the slope of a hill, the color of dried bone, your boots know, your paws sliding in the pale grit. There's a heaviness to the sky that only means one thing: rain. Not the polite, pattering drizzle of your civilized memory, but the kind of rain that makes everything stop breathing. There are no clouds yet, but the light's gone yellow-gray, and every distant howl has gone silent. That's when you know a storm is serious, when even the vultures duck for cover. These hills were once rolling grassland savannas tucked among patches of woodland, stretching wide under the ancient sun like sleeping lions. But when the storm came, it transformed. Water spilled from the sky in sheets, stripping soil from bone beds and rinsing ancient scents into chaotic whirlpools. The saber-toothed cat's Smilodon fatalis, if you want to get formal, didn't like surprise. Especially the wet kind. Imagine one of them now. Her shoulder blades roll like buried boulders under sodden fur. Each paw presses into the loose slope, squishing out mud. She's not hunting yet, she's watching. She knows that storms silence footsteps, erase trails, and confuse the noses of her prey. But they also flatten her ears with cold water and soak her body heat straight out of her skin. Historians still debate whether these cats were solo hunters or part of small matriarchal groups. But one thing is certain: rain changed the game. The open plains, perfect for pouncing and ambushes, became slipping hazards. The air, usually buzzing with the smells of everything from rot to rutting deer, now carried only petrichor and fog. A clean scent, useless. You pause at the top of a ridge and squint across a shallow basin. Rain has already started down there. It splashes in little explosions along a dried stream bed, turning it into a quicksilver vein that pulses through the lowlands. You can almost smell the old blood buried in that dirt, the memories of mammoths and bison too slow to outrun time. A saber-tooth wouldn't stand on the ridge too long. Lightning makes her silhouette too easy to spot. Instead, she slinks into the tall grass shoulders, disappearing first, then hips, until even her tail is swallowed by the damp. She may weigh as much as a bear, but in this world she floats like rumor. Odd fact of the day: saber-toothed cats had relatively short tails compared to modern lions or leopards. Their balance, especially in tight, muddy corners, had to rely on core strength and sheer muscle memory. You try sprinting with steak knives in your mouth and half a tree trunk for a neck, then tell me it's not impressive. One fossilized paw print, unearthed in what's now Argentina, shows a clear skid mark, proof that even apex predators lose traction. You wonder how many slip-ups ended with broken ribs or a crushed jaw. That's the thing about deep time. It doesn't care how sharp your teeth are. Rain comes in sideways now. No polite warning, just a curtain of water sweeping in like a predator of its own. The saber-tooth bolts downhill, vanishing between ancient tree trunks. Her paws hit the ground hard, and for a moment even she is surprised by how far she slides. Somewhere nearby, a ground sloth lets out a moaning bleat. It's been caught in the open too. The storm has ruined everyone's plans. There's a small ravine, more like a gash in the land. It might offer shelter if only from the worst of the wind. The cat leaps into it, pressing herself against the cool rock chest, heaving. Her breath fogs the air. That's the thing with saber-toothed cats. Their long, flat canines weren't great at stabbing through thick rain. They weren't designed for it. Those fangs were assassination tools better in stillness than storms. And yet, she waits, watching, rain pooling at her feet. Because sometimes prey is stupid. It runs right toward the thing it fears, trying to outrun what it doesn't understand. The rain grows louder, like applause from an invisible audience. Or maybe it's laughter. Either way, it makes your ears ring. The saber-tooth crouches deeper into her hollow. Around her, streams pour into the ravine carrying leaves, bones, and the occasional unlucky squirrel. Still, she doesn't move. She knows something's coming. Lightning flashes just once, enough to burn the outline of the world into your retinas. A herd of camels, not the desert kind, but the shaggy mountain-thick ones, crosses the high ridge. They're moving fast, panicked. Some instinct tells them to keep going even if their legs ache. The cat does not give chase. Not in this storm. It's not her night. You can feel her frustration tucked behind those heavy brows and flattened ears. Even the best predators must sometimes let the world go by. She licks water from her shouldered tongue, rough eyes half shut. The rain will end. The hunt will resume. But not now. Not while the sky howls louder than the kill. Remember when humans evolved to make fire and roofs? This cat didn't. She dealt with the sky the way you deal with taxes, endurance, not understanding. That's how survival worked back then. You didn't get to opt out of rain. You just had to decide if you were hungry enough to run through it. A fern is not a roof. It barely counts as an umbrella. And yet here you are, all 400 pounds of saber-toothed sulk curled beneath its soggy fronds, like it might somehow protect you from the sky's hissy fit. The leaves drip steadily, cold water slapping your back in regular rhythms, as if the jungle itself is tapping you to say, "Still raining, sweetheart." But you don't move. Not yet. The fern may be useless, but this vantage point is perfect. You've got a slight incline behind you, enough to stop water from pooling. Ahead lies the trail, the same ancient path that mammoths have followed for centuries. You can smell it even now through the rain's wash-crushed pine bark. Sweet grass torn at the root. The faintly sour scent of a creature so big, it doesn't care who follows it. You exhale long and slow, misting the air like a busted radiator. Your breath curls around your fangs before dissolving into the damp. Somewhere in the distance, you hear a trunk trumpet. A warning. You freeze. Everything in you stops, like a painting in the moment before the brush finishes the stroke. Then through the curtain of rain they arrive. A mammoth herd half hidden in the steam, and the sway plods slowly along the muddy pass. The lead cow is massive, her tusks yellowed with age and weather. Behind her, calves stumble through the muck, their feet too soft for the season. One of them trips and lets out a squeal. You tense. But this is not a hunting position. This is a waiting position. You know better. Rain is treachery, and mammoths are not fools. The moment you leap, the cow will swing. She's too big to miss, too old to forgive. Still, the hunger stirs in your stomach like an old scar. That ache never really leaves. You shift slightly, tail-flicking nostrils, flaring as the scent grows stronger. Historians still debate whether saber-toothed cats hunted in coordinated groups or simply shared territory without true cooperation. Either way, on rainy days, they often found themselves like this, alone in the mud beneath a fern that's pretending to be a tree. Off-topic fact: ferns have been around for over 350 million years. Long before mammals, long before cats. You're lying under a species that watched the first fish walk onto land and probably thought, this will not end well. You shake your shoulders slightly, dislodging a stream of water that runs down your flank and pools between your front paws. The fern bounces once, its spine creaking. Your ears flick at the sound, ready for trouble. But the mammoths move on unconcerned. The rain has covered your scent. For now, you hate the way it drips. The constant, uneven rhythm, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, plays tricks on your ears. Every splash sounds like a footstep. Every gust of wind smells like something that might eat you back. Yes, even you. The apex predator of this patch of ancient earth. Saber-toothed cats were powerful, but they were not invincible. Dire wolves hunted in packs. Short-faced bears could outrun you. And some of the larger humans, hairless, clever, flint-napping demons, had begun setting traps you couldn't smell. But the mammoths don't set traps. They just exist. Enormously, their movement through the world carves valleys and leaves behind troughs of squashed vegetation that other creatures like you follow with interest. You wait another hour. The rain thickens before it begins to thin, going from needle-sharp to sluggish drops the size of walnuts. Your ears are soaked. Your fur clings to your ribs. There is no dry left. Still, you don't move. Then finally, a sound you've been listening for, the soft creak of a tree branch, the snapping of twigs, something too sharp to be the wind. You rise slowly, almost lazily. You stretch your front limbs, claws emerging like knives from velvet digging into the soft earth beneath the fern. You step out from your dripping shelter. The light has shifted. The storm is passing. The world feels freshly washed but not clean. There's a heaviness in the air, the kind that makes the frogs go quiet and the rabbits rethink their life plans. You move silently, even soaked. Your muscles don't complain. Your joints are still young. You follow the mammoth trail not to hunt now, but to understand. To see if anything was left behind, an injured calf. A straggler, something worth remembering. You pause by a shallow puddle. Your reflection stares back at you, eyes gold-faced, striped with mud and old scars. Your fangs are ridiculous. Long, curved, and wickedly impractical in the modern world. If you tried to bite anything the wrong way, you'd break your own skull. Evolution clearly was in an experimental phase. But these teeth weren't meant for chewing. They were meant for display, for precision, for the final moment when a vulnerable neck was exposed and still, like a switchblade made for exactly one job. You keep walking. Remember when I said rain made everything harder? That's not quite true. For you, the saber-toothed cat, it also made things simpler. You didn't need to worry about the dry season fires or the dust choking your lungs. You didn't have to fight for shade. In the rain, there was only one rule: wait or risk it all. You never liked the waiting, but you were good at it. Very good. You reach a bend in the path where the trees open up and the puddles collect in wide bowls. There, a hoofprint too small for a mammoth, too deep for a deer. Maybe a bison or a camel. You lower your heads and sniff. It's fresh, still warm. The fern didn't protect you. It never does. But it gave you a moment of pause, and that moment might be the difference between a wasted night and a meal. You crouch low again, this time without a fern. The clouds are parting, letting in a moon as pale as bone. Your ears twitch. The world is waking up again, slippery and new. This time you don't wait for the storm to pass. You're already moving. The earth beneath you is no longer solid. It squelches, grips, shifts. Each step is a negotiation, and even your heavy, calloused paws can't find reliable purchase. You lift one foot, then set it down again, only to feel the slick ground ooze around your pads like it wants to keep a souvenir. Behind you, your trail looks more like a lazy river than a predator's path. You hate this part. You always have. Rain doesn't just change the weather, it rewrites the rules of movement. The fine, pebbly soil that used to dust your toes now turns into a slushy mess that smells like old fur and spoiled meat. You've slipped more than once in your life, and not all of those slips ended in embarrassment. Some ended in blood. Yours. You adjust your gait. Saber-toothed cats like you weren't built like the sleek, low-riding leopards of the future. You were thick, muscular front limbs, barrel chest, a walk that was more a stomp than a slink. Like someone took a lion and crossbred it with a prizefighter. Useful when wrestling prey to the ground. Not so great when mud is trying to eat your feet. Odd fact. Unlike most modern cat, saber-toothed cats had relatively short lower legs, giving them powerful but not especially graceful strides. Historians still debate whether this made them sprinters or ambush specialists, but everyone agrees they didn't chase for long, especially not through mud. You slow down again as the earth dips beneath you. It's not deep, a little hollow, probably the edge of a seasonal stream, but it's filled with brown water still rippling from the rain. You place one paw on the edge, then another. The surface looks calm. It isn't. The moment your back paw touches the puddle, it shifts. Your whole hind leg sinks. Not dramatically, just a little too fast, a little too deep. Your shoulder tenses. You whip your head around, expecting the worst. Nothing. Just you and the rain and the smug puddle pretending it didn't just try to kill you. You shake your foot loose and leap to firmer ground. Good decision. Behind you, the mud ripples again, this time without help. Something else is moving under there. Something smaller than you, but not by much. Probably a gator. Or a very angry amphibian. You don't wait to find out. You push through a patch of tall grass, the wet blades brushing your sides, painting you in green streaks. Each stalk bows under the weight of raindrops, and as you brush past, they whip back up to splash water against your ribs. It's like nature's version of being flicked with a cold rag. Again and again. Still, there's movement ahead. You pause and lower your belly to the ground, trying to feel vibrations. A herd, maybe number 2 quiet. One animal, medium-sized, heavy. You creep forward another few steps. Your paws move like weighted silk, soft, deliberate, exact. You place them carefully now, spreading your toes a little wider for balance. Even in this muck, you can hunt. You were built for it. Your claws aren't just for killing, they're for anchoring, for grabbing roots and twisted earth when gravity tries to embarrass you. You angle your body around a patch of bushes, and there it is, a giant ground sloth, slow and alone, waddling uphill toward a cluster of trees. It looks like someone glued dreadlocks onto a boulder and taught it how to walk. You can smell its musk, stronger in the rain. You crouch. Your tail flicks once. The ground beneath you shifts again. You freeze. Not now, not during the stalk. The sloth stops, head turning. You remain motionless. Your ears twitch not from sound, but from frustration. Then just as the sloth moves again, you lunge and your paw skids. It's not a bad slip. Not catastrophic, but enough. Enough for your weight to shift awkwardly for your back foot, to land wrong for your fangs, to angle a little too low. Your shoulder jars on the landing. The sloth screams its voice like a broken flute. You've still got your claws in its side, but your bite missed the neck. Instead, your fangs sink into the dense muscle near the shoulder blade. Too much meat, not enough artery. You pull back fast, dripping mud and blood. The sloth swings, almost toppling backward. You circle, breathing hard, heart punch in your ribs. You know better than to press your luck. A second mistake could mean a broken jaw. You wait. The sloth wobbles, one leg gives. It's bleeding but still moving. It turns away, stumbling off the path and into the trees. You don't follow. The kill was possible, not easy. Not smart. You lick your fangs, tasting rainwater and warm fat. Close. Remember when you thought paws were elegant? Not in the rain. Not when they drag like anchors and betray you at the worst moment. Even your claws can't grip liquid. Historians have speculated that many failed hunts in the Pleistocene weren't due to speed or strength, but bad footing. The earth itself chose winners. The saber-toothed could be stronger, faster, sharper, but if the ground turned traitor, none of that mattered. You find a dry patch beneath a leaning tree and collapsed chest, rising and falling like bellows. The tree groans in the breeze, its roots clinging to rock with the desperation of something that knows gravity is coming for it. You close your eyes just for a moment. A nap, maybe an hour. You're not the only thing that hunts here, but you're tired and the rain has finally slowed to a whisper. A lullaby of drops falling from leaf to leaf, from sky to skin. Mud still clings to your belly. Water seeps between your toes. But you don't care. You're a saber-toothed cat. You slip, you hunt, you try again. And the earth? It will always be your frenemy. Rain doesn't just flatten the sound of your footsteps, it wakes up old ghosts. You don't hear them exactly. You smell them. Rain pulls scent from the air the way fire pulls breath from a room. And tonight, you smell her. The rival. She's been shadowing your territory for days. Not close enough to confront, not far enough to ignore. You don't see her, but her scent clings to the bark like a challenge. Female, mature, strong, a little too bold. And now the storm has made everything worse. You flatten your ears, sniffing low near the base of a tree where the runoff gathers in a little spiral of leaves. Her scent is fresher here. Musky, sharp, too recent for your liking. She was here during the storm, probably curled into the hillside, probably watching you while you were watching sloths. The audacity. In this world, scent is history. Your nose is more than a tracking tool. It's a library, a calendar, a resume. One sniff and you know everything you need. Her heat cycle, what she last ate, whether she's got cubs. One deep inhale, and you can practically hear her heartbeat. Historians still debate whether saber-toothed cats use specific scent marking strategies like modern lions scratching trees, urinating on rocks, rubbing glands on branches. But evidence suggests their noses were sophisticated enough to tell stories in vapor. Even in a downpour. Especially in a downpour. Because here's the thing about rain, it doesn't just carry scent. It redistributes it, concentrates it in eddies, wipes out weak trails and makes strong ones almost overwhelming. You can't trust your nose to follow a straight line, but you can trust it to know proximity. And she is close. You slink beneath a cluster of hanging branches, your belly low to the wet ground, muscles tight and ready. Your whiskers twitch at every dripping leaf. There's no warning growl, no stomp of territory. That would be a waste. You're not defending a kingdom. You're looking for an advantage. She's smart, this one. She didn't leave a trail of claw marks, no overconfident signs. Just that lingering scent woven into the trees like spider silk. Your breath fogs the air again, warmer now. You're not panting, but your heart's a metronome. Calm but ready. You pause. Off-topic fact: giraffes, which you will never meet because they're doing fine much farther south, have blue tongues to protect them from sunburn. Why is that relevant? It's not. But thinking about blue giraffe tongues is better than thinking about being ambushed. There's a rustle ahead. You freeze. Not a wind rustle. Not the innocent flutter of a wet bird trying to dehydrate. This is heavier. Deliberate. You move silently around the noise, angling yourself down slope. The advantage is subtle height gravity surprise. She's there. You know it. Your nose tingles. You see her now, just a flash of gold in the underbrush. Her shoulders roll with the same powerful grace as yours. She's stalking something else, maybe a deer, maybe nothing at all. She hasn't noticed you yet. You should leave. Let her have this part of the forest. You have your kills, your trails, your hollow under the leaning tree. But something about the way she moves, the confidence, the deliberate silence makes your claws twitch. She reminds you of your sister, not the one who died during the dry season, the other one, the mean one, the one who used to swat you awake just to see if you'd growl. That memory tastes sour. You circle wider still downwind. Your steps are ghosts. Even the birds don't notice you. The rain helps. It always helps when you're the one using it. She finally senses something. Her head lifts, ears perked. You hold your breath. Then, unexpectedly, she doesn't run. She doesn't challenge. She leaves, just turns, slinks away into the mist like a rumor that got bored of itself. No growl, no glance, nothing. As if you were never there. You exhale, unsure whether to feel insulted or relieved. Sometimes conflict isn't worth it, especially in the rain. Especially with teeth like yours, where one bad jab could leave both of you gurgling in the mud. You stay still for a while, staring into the place where she disappeared, the echo of her scent fading like smoke. Remember when you thought apex predators were fearless? No. They're strategic. They're exhausted. They don't need to prove anything, especially not in the middle of a storm with soggy paws and a growling belly. You turn back towards the ridge, rain dripping off your muzzle like a slow leak in an old tent. The scent of the rival is still there, but it no longer pulls at you. She's not your prey. Not tonight. Up on the slope, you pause near a tree and mark it not aggressively, not rudely, just a message, a scent of your own. I'm here, I know. It's not a threat. It's not an invitation. It's a signature. And the rain will smear it in an hour, but that's fine. She'll know. You stretch out your limbs one last time, letting the water pull the heat from your fur. Then you move on, letting the wet earth remember your steps. Because even in the rain, even when the world is washed clean, your story stays behind. The movies lied to you. Saber-toothed cats didn't sleep in grand caves with perfect lighting and dramatic shadows. There were no tidy dens with family portraits scratched into the walls, no flickering torchlight showing the glint of fangs. You don't get caves unless you're lucky. And you tonight are not lucky. You're wet, your belly's muddy, and the storm is back for round two. Shelter means something different here. It's not about comfort, it's about calculation. You eye the ridge ahead, looking for ledges, thickets, anything that might offer a dry spot roughly your size. And there, tucked under a collapsed tree with half its roots exposed, is what might pass for home, if you squint and lower your standards. Historians still debate whether Smilodon fatalis even use dens in the way modern big cats do. The fossil record doesn't give us many perfect answers, just hints, claw marks on logs, hair, deposits in hollowed stumps, crushed vegetation patterns. But what's clear is that these cats often preferred overhangs and shallow depressions, not deep caves. Why? Because caves aren't always there. And sometimes they're already occupied. You squeeze under the root mass, tucking your limbs close. The ceiling is low. You can't even sit up properly. But it's dry enough. No direct drips. No running water. You sigh one long breath that sends a puff of dust into the damp air. Above you, the wind howls through the trees like something lonely and ancient. The leaves rattle in complaint, and you hear a branch snap somewhere nearby. But this spot, this hollow you've claimed, is still. Not warm, not soft, but still. You curl in tighter, letting your tail wrap around your hind legs. The soil here smells of mushrooms and rot. It's not unpleasant, just honest. You can smell the history, mice beetles, maybe even a skunk once. All part of the archive. Odd fact, skunks actually existed during the Pleistocene, though they were a little smaller and a lot more polite, probably because they didn't yet know about garbage cans. A gust of wind kicks up outside, sending a flutter of leaves through the entrance. One lands on your nose. You don't even flinch. You're too tired to care. You shift slightly, adjusting your weight to the slope floor. The ridge of your spine scrapes bark. Not painful, just present, like most things in your life. For a moment you listen, not to the storm that's too loud to focus on, but to the space itself. Shelter makes its own sound, the low hum of roots shifting, the occasional drip from somewhere above, the sigh of mud settling into itself like an old man into a chair. It's easy to pretend that you're safe here, but you know better. There are no doors in the Ice Age. You drift towards sleep anyway, lulled by exhaustion and the rhythm of the rain. Your muscles twitch with phantom hunts. Your ear flicks at dreams. You're still on edge always, but slightly less so under a blanket of wood and dirt. Then a snap. Not far. You're up in an instant, fangs bared, eyes glowing in the gloom. But it's just a deer. A young one, barely grown. It stumbles past the entrance to your hollow, soaked and terrified head, low tail twitching. It doesn't see you. You don't move. You could. You've made kills from a lying position before, but not now. Not when your legs are still stiff, not when the wet makes everything unpredictable. You let it pass. Your gift to the future. Besides, it looks like it's having a terrible day already. You lay back down, but sleep won't come again. Your body's rested, but your mind is tracking shadows. That's the curse of apex predators. You don't get to relax. Not really. Because you know how fast things can go wrong. Remember when we thought shelter meant safety? Not out here. Shelter means less unsafe. It means choosing a place where you'll hear trouble coming, where you won't wake up with a bear sniffing your ribs or a boulder rolling onto your spine. The storm eases slightly, the thunder drifts farther away, the wind quiets. You roll onto your side and let your front paws relax, claws retracting with a soft click. The root above your head creaks again louder this time. You freeze, but it holds. For now, you begin grooming slow, methodical licks along your chest and forelimbs. Water, mud, blood, all of it must go. Not because you're vain, but because scent matters. If you smell like yesterday's kill, you might be tomorrow's. Every cat knows that. You pause mid-lick and raise your head. Something's changed. The silence has a shape now, a weight, like something waiting just outside the hollow. You sniff, nothing obvious. But the fur along your spine rises anyway. You hold still for a full minute. Then the moment passes. Nothing comes. No rival, no wolf, just the same storm-drained world twitching in its sleep. You go back to grooming. Shelter wasn't a cave, it was a gamble. And tonight, maybe you won. The carcass was beautiful, at first. It had been fresh. A bison heavy and steaming collapsed by a shallow ravine, not far from where you'd watch the rival vanish. The neck was snapped clean, lucky shot. You'd barely needed to use your fangs. A quick twist, a muffled bellow, and the herd moved on without their slowest member. No drama, just dinner. But then the sky broke open again. You'd barely taken your first mouthful before the downpour began. At first, it was manageable, a drizzle that pattered across the bison's hide like soft applause. You tore through skin and muscle, warm blood spilling out into the dirt. It mixed with the first layer of water and ran in thin rivulets downhill. That was fine. Nature's rinse cycle. Then the wind shifted. The rain turned sideways, thickening into something that felt more like punishment than weather. The kill site flooded in minutes. Puddles formed in the chest cavity. The exposed guts glistened unnaturally. The scent changed, no longer fresh, now diluted, foul. You stepped back uncertain. Historians still debate how sensitive Smilodon's sense of smell truly was. But we know they could detect changes in blood bacteria and rot. Rainwater didn't just ruin the texture, it warped the odor, spoiled the feast before the maggots could even RSVP. You paced the edges of the kill, your paws squelching in the newly formed muck. You tried to drag the body uphill just a little, just far enough to keep the hindquarters dry. But this wasn't a fawn or a rabbit. This was a 200-pound bison. And you, glorious predator though you were, had no thumbs, no tools, and no backup. You pulled anyway. You braced your shoulder against its flank and heaved claws digging into the mud. The bison shifted a few inches, then slid back. You hissed in frustration. You tried again. Mud pulled at your feet. Rain ran down your snout, dripping off your long, curved teeth and into the cavity of your kill. The water pooled in the rib cage like soup. You stood over the carcass, steaming breath rising in clouds. You were soaked, filthy, furious, and you were losing it. Off-topic fact, humans didn't invent refrigeration. Nature did. Cold air has preserved more meat than any tool ever could. But rain is the great spoiler. In the Pleistocene, a sudden storm could turn a perfect kill into a bloated disaster in less than an hour. You lapped once at the blood pooling on the bison's haunch. It was already thin, tasted wrong, watery. It was like drinking regret. You had a choice. Stay and eat something barely edible. Risk sickness, waste time, attract skingers. Or leave now. Search again. Find something dry, something better. You circled one last time, then turned away. It wasn't worth it. The rain had taken it from you just like that. Remember when you thought the hard part was the kill? You pad through the woods angry. Not at anything in particular, just at the rain. The way it ruins plans. The way it sticks in your ears and makes your joints ache. The way it makes you look stupid, struggling to pull dinner out of a mud puddle like an amateur. You pass a log, then pause. Something stirs beneath it. You pounce more out of spite than hunger. It's a raccoon. Or something raccoon adjacent. You don't care. It squeaks once before your paw crushes its ribs. You eat it in 3 bites. It tastes better than the bison did, even though it's barely more than a snack. At least it's dry. You sit for a moment letting the meat settle. You stare into the storm now thinning into a fine mist. The trees drip steadily. The kill site is behind you now, forgotten. Almost. That's how it goes. In this world, your victories are temporary, and your meals are at the mercy of the sky. You keep walking, paws leaving smeared prints on soaked moss and stone. The hunger is still there, always, but the edge is gone. You've accepted the loss. Tomorrow, you'll find another herd, another hunt, maybe sun, maybe. You climb to higher ground, shaking water from your pelt in great shuddering ripples. It sprays the trees like dirty rain splattering bark and leaves. Then you settle on a dry patch beneath a leaning rock, not quite shelter but not nothing. You stare at nothing. You remember the bison's eyes clouded, bulging full of questions it never got to ask. You remember the sound of meat filling with water. You remember walking away. That's the part they never show you in the movies. Thunder doesn't sneak up on you. It arrives like an old god clearing its throat. First, there's that moment of silence, where even the birds pause and the insects forget how to hum. Then crack. The sky breaks open like a rib cage, and every animal predator and prey alike flinches. You don't flinch, not anymore. The first time you heard a proper lightning strike, you were young, barely weaned. Your ears were too big for your head, your fangs still trapped beneath the gums. Your mother didn't react. She just blinked slowly, looked at you and went back to chewing the leg off a dead antelope. Lesson learned. Thunder isn't the danger. The silence after it is. You lie now on the flat stone outcrop above the ravine. The storm hasn't arrived yet. Its teasing clouds, thick wind rising the air electric. Your fur clings to your skin with static. The hairs on your shoulders rise on their own, not in fear but anticipation. Something's coming. Lightning forks across the distant horizon. You count the seconds, 1, 2, 5, boom. Far away still. But the sky's growling like it's hungry. Thunder didn't just scare prey animals, it scared everything. Even you sometimes. Not because of the noise, but because of what it masked. Thunder drowned footsteps, covered yelps, shattered the rhythm of a hunt. You never knew what was sneaking up behind you when the sky was yelling in your ears. Historians still debate how animals adjusted their behavior during lightning storms. Some suggest predators like Smilodon became still conserving energy. Others think they may have used the chaos to their advantage. The truth? Probably both. Depends on the night. Depends on the cat. Tonight, you're not moving. There's no point. You watch the trees sway like dancers on a broken stage. The rain starts again, light at first, then heavier. You blink as it rolls down your whiskers. The thunder is closer now. No counting required. Then it hits. Lightning, real and close, splits a tree not 30 yards away. It doesn't fall, not yet. It just screams. A high crackling shriek of wood torn from the inside. Splinters burst from the trunk, hissing into the storm like darts. You crouch lower, not out of fear, out of respect. You've killed mammoths. You've stared down bears. But the sky doesn't bleed. You don't mess with the sky. Odd fact, lightning is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. You didn't need to know that, but your instincts did. That heat that flash it registers in your bones in some part of your brain that hasn't evolved in 2 million years. The stone beneath you hums with leftover energy. You shift positions, but not much. Just enough to watch the fire. Yes, fire. The tree caught. It smolders at first, orange threads curling through the bark like veins. The rain tries to kill it, but it doesn't die right away. For a moment, the fire fights back. You watch it burn in the rain, and it feels like a metaphor, though you're not sure for what. The thunder comes again, but your ears barely twitch. You're focused on something else now. Movement at the edge of the clearing. A deer. Alone. Shaking. Its eyes are wide white, showing all around, and it's limping. Probably startled by the lightning. probably deaf from the sound. It hasn't seen you. You don't move. Not out of mercy, out of logic. Remember when you thought thunder gave you cover? That was before you knew how dumb prey could be. Dumb and lucky, and how often one made the other possible. You let the deer pass. It's too spooked to stalk, too wet to chase. You go back to watching the tree burn. The fire dies 10 minutes later, swallowed by rain and steam. It leaves behind a hollowed trunk and the scent of charcoal. A smell you don't recognize, not exactly. But it stirs something in you, something old. Maybe one day humans will capture fire and carry it around like it's theirs to command. But not tonight. Tonight, fire belongs to the storm. You stretch your legs slowly, the joints stiff from stillness. The rain is slowing again. Just a mist now. The sky's finished shouting. Oddly, it feels quieter now than before. You rise and shake the water from your coat. It flies in every direction, glistening like tiny diamonds before vanishing into the soil. You lick your forelegs slowly, cleaning off the grit that the stone left behind. Then you descend from your perch, slipping between bushes, heading for lower ground. The storm has passed. The world smells new. There's a rhythm to this cycle: hunt, eat, wait, storm, survive. You're not surprised by any of it anymore. Just a little tired. Rain didn't care if you were a kitten. It didn't wait until your eyes were open, until your legs worked right, until your milk teeth gave way to knives. When it rained for everyone. Your first memory is of damp fur and the rhythmic beat of water hitting leaves. You were small. Then barely a whisper of what you'd become. Sightless, all fang and fluff, and cold. Your mother had tucked you deep inside a hollow, not a proper den, just a cradle of roots and dry grass wedged beneath a fallen tree. That was her style, practical, temporary, always ready to move if the smell of wolves got too close. Or if the water came, which it did. Kittens and rain don't mix well. Water drowns heat, and heat is life. So your mother became the blanket, the wall, the roof. You remember her chest against your back, the low rumble of her breathing, the tickle of her fur against your face. You didn't know what saber-toothed meant then, you just knew warmth. Historians still debate how Smilodon mothers raise their young, whether they raise them alone or with help from others in a group. But fossil sites showing multiple individuals of varying ages suggest something more communal than solitary. Maybe cousins played in the same mud. Maybe ants guarded while mothers hunted. Either way, your early days were damp. The ground inside of the hollow wasn't exactly dry, but it was less wet than the world outside. And your mother cleaned you constantly, even when she was soaked. Her tongue was rough, her eyes rarely closed. When she slept, it was in fragments, 5 minutes at a time, one ear always twitching. You didn't mind the storms back then. You didn't understand them. But you remember the sound. Rain on leaves, rain on fur, rain on your tiny paws as you stepped outside one evening and tasted mud for the first time. Off-topic fact. Kittens of all species have an innate curiosity about water right up until it touches their bellies. Then they learn betrayal. Your first adventure was a crawl across the slick ground chasing a moth. You didn't get far. The moment your foot sank into the mud, you let out a squeaky growl and retreated into your mother's side, betrayed and offended. She licked the mud off without comment. That was her way. You learned quickly after that. Rain meant no exploring, no pouncing, just waiting, huddled close, listening to the droplets whisper nonsense through the canopy. But the hollow wasn't always miserable. Sometimes it felt magical. When the rain hit just right, the roots overhead created a strange kind of music, drips and syncopation rhythms you'd later associate with safety. The soft slosh of your siblings' breathing, the occasional yawn, the distant splash of something bigger moving through the floodplain. It was a lullaby of sorts. And sometimes when the storms paused, you'd see flashes of sky between the leaves. Bright, shocking, alien. The first time you truly saw the world, it was under cloudlight. Everything smelled cleaner, sharper, the bark, the moss, the hint of blood from some long-dead meal buried under ferns. You opened your mouth to taste the air instinct guiding your jaw. Your baby fangs were already enormous. Saber-toothed cats developed their iconic teeth long before adulthood. By a few months old, yours had begun to grow and crowding your skull like wild ideas. You could feel them when you yawned, awkward, heavy, not yet useful, just a promise of what you'd become. They made nursing harder. They made playtime dangerous. You bit your brother once by accident. He avoided you for a day, then tackled you anyway. Rain always returned. Just when you thought the sun might stay, the clouds rolled in like regret. And your world would shrink again to that hollow, that body heat, that smell of wet grass and old kills. One storm flooded the den, not entirely just enough to make your mother growl. You remember her dragging you one by the scruff of your neck, her paws slipping as she carried you to higher ground. You remember the feel of her breath on your fur, hot with urgency. The new hiding spot was tighter, colder, and the ground sloped the wrong way. But it was safe. That was the day you stopped liking the rain. You saw your brother shiver for hours afterward, his nose pressed to your side tail twitching. You saw your mother lose weight, choosing to guard instead of hunt. Rain meant risk. Still does. Even now, grown fanged and twice the size of your mother, you crouch beneath a tree and remember how it felt to be that small. To not understand thunder, to think rain was a creature trying to eat you. You miss the hollow sometimes, not because it was warm, but because it was known. Out here, every drop carries the scent of change, of danger. And still you crouch, you listen, because the storm like the one before is just another test, and you've passed them all so far. There's a story on the wind tonight. You don't hear it, you smell it etched into the air like someone whispered it to the trees. It drifts low and slow, riding the wet grass like a rumor with good posture. And your nose, always working, reads every word. Smilodon didn't see the world the way humans do. You could stare straight at a sleeping deer and miss it entirely if the light was wrong. But you could smell it from half a mile away across two ridges in a thunderstorm. Even in the rain, especially in the rain. Because here's the twist. Most creatures never learn when everything else goes quiet. Scent speaks loudest. Rain may mute the world, but it also churns the soil, lifts the oils. From bark wakes up the hidden stories buried in scat and sweat and fear. Right now, your nose picks up 6 things. Old bison dung dry until about an hour ago. Bird feathers crushed under something too heavy. A broken limb, pine sap still leaking. Waterlogged mushrooms, a carcass of some kind, far, old, ripe, and something else. Something alive, not moving, waiting. You slow your pace, drop your head, sniff again. Saber-toothed cats like you didn't just have noses. You were noses. Your skull was built around the olfactory network the way human skulls are built around complaining. Long nasal passages, huge scent receptors. A brain hardwired to track changes in parts per trillion. Odd fact, a modern dog has around 220 million olfactory receptors. Your kind probably had similar numbers, maybe more. No one's counted. Fossils aren't polite about that sort of thing. You stop walking. There's something wrong with the scent. It's not unfamiliar, just fractured. It smells like deer but older, like it tried not to be found. Or like it wanted to be found. The kind of thing that makes predators hesitate. Historians still debate how saber-toothed cats use their noses socially, whether scent-marked territory identified family or warned of rivals. But they agree on one thing: no creature this smell-sensitive survived by accident. You circle a low rock, sniffing at its base. Something brushed here recently. Wet fur. Lame leg. You imagine a young elk may be injured, dragging itself uphill. Not fast, not clever, just desperate. You follow. The trail winds uphill into a gully thick with damp ferns and crushed foliage. Every step you take is a test of balance. Mud sucks at your paws, roots shift beneath the surface. Still, you press on. Then the scent stops. No fade, no curve, just ends. You pause. That doesn't happen. Even in storms, even when the rain eats your footprints, the smell remains. Molecules don't just give up. But here, nothing. Like it was erased. Your ears swivel. Your chest rises. It takes a full minute before you smell it again this time, faint far off, circling back the way you came. You've been followed. You feel it before you confirm it. That prickle between the shoulder blades. That whisper in your spine. You don't turn right away. You keep walking, slowly, letting the rhythm of your movement stay calm. Let them think you haven't noticed. Then suddenly you stop. Pivot. Nothing. Just rain sliding off the leaves in rhythmic drips. The trail behind you empty. Silent. But your nose doesn't lie. You sit back on your haunches and taste the air. Yes, there. A different kind of predator. Not one of your kind. Not a wolf. Bigger. Smells old. Sick maybe, or just tired. You don't wait to find out. You back away from the gully steps, soft, careful. You won't run. That shows panic. You'll drift. Like a cloud. Because sometimes survival means knowing when a scent stops telling a story and starts writing one you don't want to be part of. You cross a small stream, letting the water clean your paws. The mud comes off in curls. Your scent trail scatters. You rest beneath a wide tree, one you've used before. It's dry enough. You rub your jaw along the bark, marking it. Not with fear. With a message: I was here. I am still here. Then you listen again. The forest breathes differently after you understand it. The scent that chased you is gone, but the feeling lingers. Like a dream that stays on your tongue after you wake up. Remember when you thought your claws were your greatest weapon? No, it was always your nose. Your instincts. Your refusal to ignore the things others can't even detect. You lie back on the roots and let the scents roll over you again, less urgent now. Just the trees. The wet grass. Yourself. And somewhere very far away, the smell of smoke. You close your eyes. You'll track it later. For now, the nose sleeps. It didn't look like danger. It looked like a puddle. You'd seen 1,000 of them. Shallow pools spread across grassland after a storm, reflecting the sky like broken glass. You approached it the way you always did, cautious but casual. A sniff here, a paw step there. It was just water, but then the ground gave. Not fast, not like a trap snapping shut. It was subtler, a slow sucking slip. You stepped in and your foot didn't come back out. At first, you didn't panic. You'd been stuck before mud vines even once in a hollow log when you were young and foolish. You lifted your paw. It didn't move. You shifted your weight to the other side. That paw sank too. You growled low in your throat. The puddle had a smell now. Not just wet earth, but something deeper. Older. Like oil and rot mixed with regret. You tried to leap, but your paws stayed buried. You twisted your body claws, tearing at the slick edges. But the more you moved, the more it pulled. It wasn't a puddle, it was a trap. Historians now call them tar seeps, natural asphalt pits that appear harmless but can devour an animal in minutes. We know them best from places like La Brea, where thousands of fossils lie in sticky layers, victims of a misstep. You were one of them, or nearly. You flung your body backward, roaring fangs, bared tail thrashing. One paw broke free, then the other. But the third, your back leg, held fast. You turned, dug your front claws into the grass behind you, and pulled. The suction noise was obscene. You stumbled backward, panting, chest heaving, paw slicked with black. Your leg hurt. Not broken, but strained. You limped away, the tar clinging like a second skin, staining your golden coat with shadows. You didn't stop until you were half a mile away, hidden behind a fallen log, gasping. Odd fact, tar doesn't just trap, it preserves. The plants and animals that fell in it are still being pulled from those pits today, their bones speaking for them centuries later. Including Smilodon. Maybe one day someone will find your paw print in that pool. Maybe they'll wonder if you were chasing something or fleeing the truth. You were just curious. It almost killed you. You spend the next hour cleaning the muck from your fur. It sticks like hunger. It smells like the end. You rub against a tree, grind your shoulder into the dirt, even lick your limbs despite the taste. It takes forever, but eventually it's gone. Mostly. You limp back toward your usual paths slower now. The sky has cleared. The air feels thin, like the world just got scrubbed too hard. You pass a place you know well, a boulder shaped like a sleeping bear, a tree with one bent limb like a crooked finger. And you see them paw prints, yours from the day before. Neat, confident. You step beside them with your muddy paw and see the difference. Remember when you thought you were invincible? You're not. Even you Fang's claw's muscle can be taken down by a puddle. You limp along a new path, avoiding anything that even looks wet. The storm has passed, but the danger lingers. The land remembers what you nearly forgot. One wrong step can end the story. And this world doesn't hand out second chances often. Tonight you'll rest in a different place. One with dry ground, one with rocks beneath the soil, one that smells like safety, even if only for a night. Because puddles lie, and sometimes they kill. You're getting older. Not slow, not weak, not yet. But different. Your joints whisper when you crouch. Your eyes take a moment longer to adjust to the dark. And when it rains, the ache settles in places you didn't know had names. So you've learned something that takes younger cats years to understand sometimes. When the storm comes, you don't run. You rest. Tonight is one of those nights. The clouds gather with that low, bruised look. Not violent, just persistent, the kind of storm that doesn't scream but hums. Rain falls in lazy sheets, soft enough to sleep to heavy enough to stop the hunt. You could move. You could find shelter. You could drag yourself up a ridge, or crawl into a hollow, or fight a rival for the dry spot beneath the rotted log. But you don't. You just lie there, right in the open. Not sprawled, never that. You keep your limbs tucked in, chin resting on your paws, ears flicking occasionally when the drops slide too far. But otherwise you're still, at peace. Rain makes prey pause. And if they're not moving, neither are you. Historians still debate whether this sort of rest behavior was common in Smilodon or just something we infer from wear patterns in the bones of older individuals. Some of their joints show signs of stress, arthritis, healed fractures. These weren't creatures that died young. They learned, adapted, endured, and sometimes they just waited. You blink slowly, letting the rain cool your face. The sound is steady, soothing. Every drop on a leaf, every ripple in a puddle becomes part of a rhythm your body understands. No threat, no hurry. Odd fact, raindrops can carry the scent of ozone produced when lightning splits oxygen molecules. You don't know the science, but you do know that smell. Sharp, clean, like the air is about to reset. You lick your shoulder lazily. The fur there still holds the memory of tar from 2 nights ago, even after all your efforts. It'll fade. You've lived through worse. You remember the dry season 5 years ago when you nearly starved. The snow that fell late. The summer that baked the grass flat. But you're still here. The younger cats never understand the value of stillness. They chase everything, run themselves ragged, waste energy like it's endless. You used to do the same, leaping before thinking, hunting during lightning, taking risks because your teeth were new and your muscles hadn't yet tasted failure. Now you know better. The rain is your excuse to slow down, and the truth is you enjoy it. There's a calm that settles over the land during storms. No birds screaming, no bugs buzzing. Even the rodents stop squeaking. It's like the world takes a breath and lets it out slowly. You stretch one paw, then the other. Not far. Just enough to keep the blood moving, then you settle again. You watch a squirrel dart through the underbrush, soaked in ridiculous tail like a mop. You don't chase it. Wouldn't be worth the splash. You're not hungry enough. There's a myth that predators are always hungry. But sometimes you just want dry. You rest your head on the crook of your leg and close your eyes. The world softens. The sound of rain becomes your blanket. You doze. In your dream, you're a cub again, curled against your mother. Her heartbeat, the drumbeat of the world. No rivals, no cold, no slippery kills or vanished trails. Just warmth. Then a drop lands on your nose and you wake with a snort. You blink annoyed but not angry. You shake your head once and exhale. Still raining, still quiet. You roll onto your side back legs, kicking out slightly, letting the rain soak your belly. It's not pleasant, but it's not painful. You've learned to make peace with discomfort. You've had to. Remember when we thought strength was just muscle? Strength is also patience, endurance, the wisdom to know when to move and when not to. Tonight, the younger cats will stalk and slip and get bruised in the mud. You'll rest. And when the rain ends, you'll still be here. Raindrops don't sound like footsteps, except when they do. It starts small. A scatter of droplets tapping across leaves, bouncing off bark, plinking on stones. But your ears don't register them as harmless, not at first. They process pattern, they remember rhythm. And tonight, that rhythm is playing tricks. You crouch low still as frost ears tilted forward. You're deep in the thicket now beneath a canopy of broad, glistening leaves. The rain comes in from the side, filtered through green and shadow. Somewhere above, a drip finds its way down, landing with a wet thock right behind your paw. You don't move, because for one full second, that drop sounded exactly like a footstep. Your heart doesn't race exactly, but it leans forward. Ready. Your eyes scan the underbrush for shapes, motion outlines that don't belong. But there's nothing. Just trees, just vines, just the occasional shiver of a wet squirrel trying to pretend it's a jaguar. This is what the rain does to your mind. It echoes. Historians still debate how ancient predators interpreted the acoustic confusion of rainforests and storm seasons. Did saber-toothed cats develop heightened directional hearing? Did they learn to distinguish footstep from rainfall through instinct or trial and error? The answer seems to be yes to all. Because here you are, nearly 1,000 pounds of honed predator, startled by a raindrop. You shift position slowly, pause silent on the soaked earth. Not because you're convinced someone's there, but because you're not. And not being sure is worse. Odd fact, some frogs have been known to mimic the sound of falling rain to attract mates. It's like catfishing, but for amphibians. Not relevant to your night, except now you're imagining some tiny frog in the bushes yelling, "Come here, big boy," every time it rains. You press forward. Your goal was simple. Track the deer you scented before the storm. It moved through here just before the downpour began, its trail still warm, then the print sharp and hopeful. But now the rain has softened everything. The trail is vague. The smell is muted, and every time a droplet hits the ground behind you, your ears flip like flags. You pause again. This time it's not a raindrop. It's heavier. Duller. Thud. You freeze. Again. Thud. Then nothing. Your body flattens to the earth, muscles flexed, claws half extended. You breathe through your mouth now, trying to taste the air. There, on the breeze. Bear! Not the massive kind. Not the short-faced monstrosity that could out-sprint horses. No, this is one of the smaller cousins, still dangerous, still unpleasant, but not an immediate death sentence. You shift slightly to the left, placing your weight on the part of your paw that makes no noise. You've learned this trick over years of mistakes. Stepping wrong on wet leaves is the oldest betrayal. You see the bear moments later. It's lumbering through the trees, nose down, soaked through, grumbling at the storm like it's a personal insult. It hasn't seen you yet. You stay still. Not hidden, just unremarkable. A shadow in the storm. It passes. You wait 10 long seconds after it's gone, then exhale through your nose. Not relief, just clearance. You step out of the thicket, back onto a trail thick with puddles and fallen leaves. The sound returns. Drops pattering, sliding, bouncing, each one innocent, until the next echo. That's the curse of the rain. It makes everything uncertain. You keep moving slower now, less interested in the deer. It's probably gone, hiding, shaking, just like everything else that wants to stay alive. You reach a clearing. No trees overhead. Just rain and sky, and a stretch of muddy grass pocked with half-prints and washed-out trails. You step into it and stop. For a second, you listen. You count the echoes. Nothing suspicious, nothing real, just ghosts. Remember when you trusted your ears? Rain teaches you not to. Because sound bends when it's wet. It carries differently, bounces weird, makes liars out of the things you thought were safe. Tonight, you'll trust your eyes, and your nose, and your instincts. Your ears, they're on probation. You shake water from your head in one swift motion. It splatters like a burst pipe. Then you move into the trees again, following the higher ground away from the places where rain collects and echo waits. Some nights you hunt. Some nights you listen. And some nights like this, you just try not to fall for the sound of footsteps that aren't there. The rain won't stop. It's lighter now, less fury, more drizzle, but it hasn't paused once in hours. It's the kind of steady that seeps into everything. Your fur's clumped. Your whiskers droop. Even your fangs are collecting droplets. Yes, your fangs. They curve out from your upper jaw like ivory scythes, elegant and brutal. You were born with the promise of them. But right now they are, if you'll forgive the term, useless umbrellas. You try to shake off of the rain again, a full-body shiver that sprays droplets in every direction. It doesn't help. The water just returns. One drop even runs straight down the ridge of your fang and lands on your tongue. Tastes like moss and regret. You blink slowly. Your stomach growls. You're hungry. Not starvation hungry. Just bored hungry. The kind of hunger that makes you chase things you wouldn't usually bother with. And unfortunately, that kind of hunger leads to bad decisions. Like this one. There's a sloth. A big one, Megalonyx, most likely lumbering along the muddy edge of a stream. It's wet, slow, distracted. Exactly the sort of creature you shouldn't waste time on in this weather. But it's also right there. And you're soaked, irritated, and full of bad ideas. You crouch low in the underbrush, ignoring the way the water seeps into your elbows. You position your body just right, weight forward, tail low, eyes locked. You exhale once, then you leap. You land wrong. The rain-slicked soil betrays you again. Your front paw skids sideways. Your hind legs overcorrect. Your shoulder hits the ground with a squish that would have been funny if it weren't humiliating. And your fangs, your beautiful, impractical fangs, catch the air just wrong. The sloth turns with an expression that can only be described as mildly annoyed. It ambles off. You lie there for a moment, soaked, sore, with rain dripping off the tip of your left fang like you're some ancient garden ornament. You get up slowly, shake yourself again, and glare at the stream like it owes you money. Remember when you thought your teeth made you invincible? They make you majestic, yes. They make your kills quick when they land true. But they also catch rain like spoons and make biting tricky if your angle's wrong. And they make slipping in the mud extra awkward. Historians still debate how Smilodon used those fangs without injuring themselves. Some argue they aimed for soft tissue throats, bellies. Others suggest a sort of targeted stab, followed by immediate retreat. But no one disputes this one wrong move, and those teeth could be your downfall. You stalk away from the stream, still hungry now, embarrassed. Off-topic fact, giraffes only sleep for about 30 minutes a day, usually in short bursts. Probably because they've heard stories like this and decided naps are dangerous. You find a patch of firmer ground and sit. Rain still falls. You watch it collect on the curves of your teeth, beat up, then drip in perfect rhythm, like some ancient clock counting down to nothing. You lick your paw slowly, thinking, you could wait out the storm. You could try again, or you could just accept that today is a loss. You sigh. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't surviving. It's accepting that even when you've done everything right, crouched perfectly, chosen good cover, made a silent approach, nature has other plans. The rain doesn't care how many mammoths you've killed. It doesn't care that you're the sharpest thing in the forest. It falls on you just the same. You stretch your neck, letting the muscles loosen. You bare your teeth once, not in threat, just testing. One drop falls from the right fang, another from the left. Perfect symmetry. You stand and walk away from the failed hunt, not defeated, just rained out. Because the truth is, teeth aren't umbrellas. And predators, no matter how elegant, sometimes have to accept they look ridiculous in the mud. The storm has passed, finally. The rain has slowed to mist, then to nothing. But But what it leaves behind isn't silence, it's something stranger aftermath. The ground is a mirror of ruin puddles pocked with floating leaves, branches snapped in half, and the distinct smell that only follows a long storm wet death. That cloying, clinging scent of things that didn't make it. You know that smell. You follow it. Your paws still sore from slipping earlier move with purpose now. You're not stalking, not hunting, just investigating, like a scavenger, like the creatures you usually swat away from your kills. You crest a low ridge and the smell hits you hard. Rot, blood, rain-slick fur. You know before you see it something died here. Not killed by predator, killed by weather. It's a deer, or what's left of one. The body is twisted awkwardly at the base of a fallen tree half buried in mud. Its flank is open, torn, but not eaten. Its eyes are wide, glassy, already milky with decay. Lightning. Maybe. Or it slipped. Or maybe it just panicked and ran straight into the tree in the dark. The rain does that. It breaks more than just branches. You approach slowly. Not out of caution, there's nothing here to fear but out of ritual. Death deserves respect even in the wild. You sniff. The smell is wrong. Too fresh to ignore. Too spoiled to enjoy. You bite once, testing. The meat pulls apart easily, but it's soft in a way that signals sickness or rot. You pull back? Shake your head? No. Even hungry, you're not desperate. You back away from the carcass, stepping lightly through the churned soil, glancing at the animal one last time. That's when you realize you're not alone. There are tracks nearby. Deep ones. Round. Heavy. Not yours. Not wolves. Another cat. It fed here. Took a few bites, left the rest. Maybe it sensed what you did. Maybe it just wasn't hungry. But its scent lingers. Strong, female, older. You follow the tracks for a few feet, then stop. No need. You're not looking for a fight. Just a meal. And this one isn't it. Historians still debate how often Smilodon scavenged. Some think they preferred fresh kills only. Others argue they were opportunists like any smart predator. After all, why waste energy chasing when the forest delivers something already broken? Tonight you feel both truths. You walk on, past the body, past the puddles of blood turned pink with rain, past the smell of death that now follows you like a second shadow. Odd fact, the human nose can detect the scent of a decaying body for up to half a mile. Your nose could probably pick it up in a dream. The forest is full of ghosts tonight. You move quietly through the trees, ears twitching with every creak and groan. The wet makes everything louder, even the silence. Eventually you find a high ridge, dry, wind-swept cold. But it overlooks the clearing where scavengers have begun to gather. A flock of black birds wheels overhead, voices shrill. You lie down on the rock and watch. You won't eat tonight. Not well anyway. But you'll rest. And you'll remember this spot the way it smells after a storm. The way the dead invite company. And the way you for once declined. Remember when you thought the end of the storm meant peace? It doesn't. It means decisions. What to eat. What to leave. Who else is nearby? Which smells matter? The storm ended. But the game never does. You close your eyes just for a moment, and the smell of death rolls on the wind, sweet as memory. You're standing in the rain again, but this time it's different. It's warm, heavy, the kind of downpour that doesn't sting your skin, just melts into it. The clouds aren't angry, now they're tired. The sky isn't booming or cracking, it's just crying a little. And you're not hunting. You're not running. You're not watching your breath in the cold. You're dying. It's not how you imagined it. No blood, no jaws, no sprint for your life with a rival clawing at your heels. It's quiet. So quiet you can hear each droplet tapping leaves in perfect sequence, like the earth trying to lull you to sleep. You're lying on your side in a shallow hollow where the grass bends under your ribs and the earth smells like moss and memory. You don't remember the injury. Only that walking became limping, and limping became stopping. And now stopping is all there is. Historians still debate how old saber-toothed cats could get in the wild. The fossil evidence shows injuries that healed hips, that broke and refused teeth, worn down to stumps. Some Smilodon lived past the age where they could hunt, relying perhaps on luck, or leftovers, or maybe others. You didn't get that. You were alone in the end, as most of your kind were. But you don't mind. Odd fact, elephants sometimes return to the bones of their dead and touch them gently with their trunks as if remembering. No one knows why. Maybe you'll be remembered too, maybe not. Your breath comes slower now. The rain pools around your belly, runs down the grooves between your shoulder blades. Your fur is soaked through. Your whiskers sag. Even your fangs, once gleaming fearsome, absurdly long, just rest on the earth like old tools. You blink once and the world shifts. The trees blur into each other. The ground softens under you. The sound of the rain fades from rhythm to whisper. A moment ago, you were the storm. Now you're the stone. Still, remember when you waited under ferns as a cub? When thunder made you flinch? When you chased sloths and slipped in the mud? That was a whole life ago. And yet, it's all here, like the storm carried it back. You close your eyes, not in fear, not in regret, but in rhythm. A long blink, a last breath, and the rain keeps falling, gently now, washing the scent of you into the soil, softening the outline of your body. Somewhere nearby, a bird calls. Not a cry of alarm, just a note simple and soft as if marking the end of a song. Your story ends where so many begin, in the mud under the rain, wrapped in a world that forgets nothing and remembers everything. And the saber-toothed cat is still. So what did saber-toothed cats do when it rained? They endured. They stalked through mud and slipped on hillsides. They waited beneath soaked ferns and chased prey across flooded trails. They adapted paw by paw, choice by choice, not because they liked the rain, but because there was no option but to live within it. Rain blurred everything, scent, sound, shape. It made hunting harder, kills messier, shelter more precious. It twisted footsteps into echoes and puddles into traps. It tested their senses, their balance, their judgment. And still, Smilodon survived. Sometimes they were clever, choosing stillness over chase, resting rather than risking, listening to the rhythm of raindrops and letting the world pass them by. Other times they acted on instinct, leaping, slipping, snarling into the wind, failing often, but trying always. The saber-toothed cat didn't own the storm. It moved through it. It breathed it. It waited for it to pass, and when it didn't, it stayed anyway. Even in their last moments, when the rain came down in warm waves, and the thunder was just a memory, they faced the end with the same grace they hunted with. Not as monsters, not as myths, but as creatures of the earth, built for power, shaped by time, and humbled by water. So next time it rains, and you hear it whispering on your roof, remember the ones who lay beneath it, silent, soaked, sharp-toothed, and unafraid.